I never imagined that the truth about my spouse would be revealed to me while I hid behind a potted ficus tree in our living room. Yet, there I was, crouching beneath its leaves at midnight, watching Chase pace back and forth, his phone pressed to his ear. "My name is Willa, and up until that night, I thought I had everything under control. I'm an elementary school teacher, I'm expecting our first child, and I'm married to what I had always believed was a devoted, loving husband. Life, however, has a way of throwing unexpected curveballs, especially when you least expect them. And right then, as I watched Chase, it was clear that everything I thought I knew was about to be shattered. With my heart pounding in my chest, I overheard him speaking in hushed, urgent tones. "Douglas' death changes everything," he said, his voice thick with something I couldn't quite place. "Willa's too upset to think clearly about the inheritance. This is our chance." A cold shiver ran down my spine as I stifled a gasp, pressing my hand to my mouth to silence the rush of emotions. My husband, the man I trusted, was making plans in the dead of night. Plans that involved my father's inheritance just 2 weeks after his death. I wanted to confront him right then, but something held me back. I stayed hidden, listening as he continued, his voice softening into that slick, almost charming tone I once found endearing. "No, listen," he urged, clearly trying to convince someone on the other end of the line. What was he really up to? "We can work to sell the shares quickly after they are transferred. The business is valued at millions. Until it is finished, Willa doesn't need to know the specifics." Squatting caused my legs to cramp, but I dared not move. Chase's covert muttering had stopped me in my tracks, even though I had only come downstairs for a glass of water. He ran his fingers through his hair and muttered, "Of course I feel bad about it." I now understood that the gesture might have been less anxious and more calculated. "But consider it. We might be able to pay off your father's and your debt, obtain the Palm Springs home of your dreams." The room began to swirl a little. With my other hand automatically going to my barely visible baby bulge, I steadied myself against the wall. I had never heard Chase's voice in this tone in our 5 years of marriage, easy, cunning, and quite predatory. "For now, just keep this between us," he added. "Leonard and I had previously discussed the legal aspects. All we have to do is wait for the ideal opportunity to propose it to Willa." "You are aware of her feelings toward her father's legacy?" "Because it was important, I did become emotional over my father's legacy. Because my father started his car business from nothing, put in 16-hour days, and still found time to teach me how to play the piano every Sunday. Because he valued honesty and diligence above all else." After hanging up, Chase went upstairs. I forgot my water and waited till his footsteps stopped before coming out of my hiding place. Now the stark moonlight shining through our bay windows brought out all the pricey furniture Chase had demanded we have, furniture that had been purchased with my family's money, I realized with increasing nausea. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. My dearest buddy from college, Jenna, texted me. "Not able to sleep? I noticed you were online. Everything is fine." With my fingers hanging over the keyboard, I gazed at the message. What could I say about what had just transpired? That when I was carrying his child, my husband was planning to steal my inheritance? That my heartfelt confidence in a man was clearly just a well-dressed con artist? I put "need to talk" instead. "Tomorrow for breakfast?" "Significant," she responded right away. 7 a.m. is the usual time. Do I need to worry? I gazed at all the well-chosen pictures of our ideal life together in our living room. My honeymoon in Bali with Chase. He had enchanted everyone with his heartfelt vows during our wedding. He had perfected the role of the loyal son-in-law during family get-togethers. I replied unconcerned, just furious, as well as preparation. I sat across from Jenna at our favorite breakfast place the morning after learning of Chase's betrayal, carefully tearing up a napkin as she pondered what I had just told her. All I could hear was Chase's voice from last night, scheming to steal my inheritance, even though the cafe was bustling with its typical morning crowd. It was that cunning jerk. Jenna's lawyer mode kicked in as she finally spoke. "Have you looked over your shared accounts? Your individual accounts?" I took out my phone and nodded. "Did it already?" "So far, nothing looks strange yet." I stopped as a text from Chase appeared on my screen. Today I'm having lunch with my parents. They would like to talk about some potential investments for the inheritance. Come along." My stomach rumbled. "They're traveling more quickly than I anticipated," I said, displaying the message to Jenna. Leaning back, she attentively stirred her coffee. "What's interesting, you know? Corporate acquisitions are the area of expertise for Chase's legal practice. After you called, I did some research on him. What do you say? This may involve more than just Chase and his parents, I'm saying. Have you recently observed any strange people lingering around your father's business?" The cafe door chimed before I could respond. I froze in mid-sentence as my mother-in-law Maureen's words echoed across the room. "Willa, how unexpected." When Maureen walked up to our table with her luxury purse swinging, Jenna's eyes widened a little, but I was still able to grin. It was obvious that she had just had her hair done. I understood bitterly that it was probably on Chase's credit card. I tried to sound solid as I said, "Just getting breakfast with Jenna. How are you?" "Oh, how lovely. Additionally, you appear radiant and pregnant." Without asking, Maureen patted my stomach and gushed. "I heard from Chase that you might come to eat with us today. We have so many fascinating concepts to talk about." Beneath the table, Jenna's foot pressed on mine, a silent warning to maintain composure. "I have to go to the doctor, actually." I lied with ease. "Regular examination. Can't you reschedule, though? Your future is at stake here, the future of your child." Maureen's eyes hardened slightly, but her grin stayed steady. "I can't miss it because of the baby's future." As I gathered my belongings, I responded, "Perhaps next time." Jenna took hold of my arm as we walked out of the cafe. "All right, it wasn't a coincidence. She wanted to see how you were doing." I understood that Chase must have used our shared account to track my location. "I must adjust my settings." "That's not enough," Jenna said firmly. "Before they can take any action regarding the company shares, you must legally protect yourself." Chase texted me again, and my phone buzzed. "At breakfast, Mom said she spotted you. Is everything all right? These days, you look aloof." I gazed at the message, recalling how Chase used to make me smile by sending me sporadic texts throughout the day. Every syllable felt deliberate now, like it was a part of a complex act. I told Jenna that I didn't know how to continue acting like everything was normal. "I get nauseous every time he touches me or inquires about the baby." Jenna responded, "Then don't pretend. Make use of it. Give him the impression that you're grieving for your father. We'll have more time to determine their precise plans." Just like clockwork, my mother Lorraine called and my phone rang. "Sweetheart, are you seated? You should hear some fascinating information I recently learned regarding Chase's company." I met Jenna's worried eyes and put the phone on speaker. As she went on, my mother's voice was tight with restrained rage. "Do you recall the merger that Dad fought against prior to his passing? Can you guess which legal firm is defending the purchasers?" All of a sudden, the parts came together. There was more to this than inheritance. This was about the whole legacy of my father, and all along my spouse had been working against him. "I must leave," I informed both of them. "I must return home before Chase notices a problem, but I'm going to the bank first." "How will you respond?" Jenna inquired. I considered Maureen's cunning gaze, Chase's slick lies, and my father's aspirations for his business. I vowed to defend what was rightfully mine. They will then regret ever underestimating me because of me. I searched my own house for a week before finding what I was looking for in Chase's home office. As I held the papers, my hands shook. Draft agreements, private communications, and merger offers were all sent months before to my father's passing. It felt like a slap in the face to see the company logo at the top of every page. Bennett and Associates, the company where my spouse had spent the previous 3 years. Behind me, the office door creaked. Chase was standing there with an enigmatic expression when I turned around. "Are you trying to find a certain item?" His voice was unnaturally calm as he asked. I displayed the documents. "For what length of time did you plan this? Either before or after Dad's illness?" "Willa, it's not what you think." Shutting the door behind him, he entered the room. "The company would be saved by the merger. Your father didn't notice it because he was too obstinate." "Too obstinate?" My voice broke. "He started that business from scratch. He had faith in you. I'm also working to preserve his legacy. Chase approached and grasped my hand. I took a step back and ran into his desk. The market is evolving. The company won't be around for another 5 years without this merger. Don't. I felt our baby kick as I put my hand to my stomach. Don't act as though the only thing being protected is your commission. His expression stiffened. You're sensitive. The hormones of pregnancy. You dare not. The anger I had been holding inside exploded. Chase, I located the transfer documentation. It's already completed and awaiting my signature. Did you also intend to forge that? There was a flash in his eyes. It was displeasure at being caught, not guilt. Everything changed after the loss of your father. We had to hurry. We? I gave a sour laugh. You mean your parents and yourself? How much do they stand to gain from this agreement? We were interrupted by the sound of the front door opening. Chase? Willith? The sound of Maureen's voice drifted upward. We packed to lunch. Chase took hold of my arm. Avoid creating a commotion. Not right now. Consider the infant. I pulled myself away from him. That's precisely what's on my mind. You're there. With Leonard at her heels, Maureen emerged in the doorway. When she noticed the documents in my palm, her smile wavered. Oh, are those the docs from the merger? Fantastic. We can talk about it all over lunch. Really? I responded, erecting my back. I just finished speaking with the board members on the phone. The sight of Chase's pale face made the deception worthwhile. It's interesting that they were all unaware of these negotiations. Leonard took a step forward. Charmingly silky. Decisions in business can be difficult, Willa. Like the choice to conceal your company's role from my father in his final days? I saw the crack of their practiced smiles. Or the choice to hasten this transaction while using my pregnancy as a pretext. Chase whispered softly, You're making a mistake. This merger is taking place whether or not you cooperate. I reflected on my father, who taught me that morality was more important than immediate financial gain, while working late into the night. Regarding Jenna's legal counsel and my mother's warning, I took out my phone and said, You're right about one thing. Today, something is going on. The recording software had been running since I walked into the office, so I hit play. The room echoed Chase's earlier remarks. The market is evolving. Not including this merger. Did you record me? Chase lost all of his charm. It's against the law. Actually, I said, recording discussions you participate in is completely legal in this state. But attempted fraud and insider trading, those are clearly unlawful. Maureen approached me with her hands up in a conciliatory manner. Let's all relax, darling. Copies have already been forwarded to my attorneys, the board, and the SEC. I went on. I would be lying again as soon as I left. This is what is going to occur. All of you are leaving my house. Right now. This is also my home. Chase lost his temper. Examine the deed. I answered. She was more aware. The headaches had begun immediately following my confrontation with Chase. Once more, my phone buzzed. Chase had sent me 20 messages since I had left the house. Like everyone else, I ignored it. The physician cleared her throat. Bennett, Mrs. Harper. I made the automatic correction. I'm returning to Harper, then MS Harper. Given that you are 24 weeks pregnant, your blood pressure is alarming. For at least a week, I advise bed rest. A week. 5 days remained until the merger vote. I am unable to. My mother interrupted me before I could finish. She'll do it, Lorraine firmly stated, at my residence. A new message appeared on my phone, this one from Leonard. Consider the harm you are causing to this family. Chase is inconsolable. Let's have an adult conversation about this. My mother eventually talked after the doctor went to prepare the discharge paperwork. Why didn't you warn me that things were becoming so bad? Because it becomes genuine when you speak it aloud. I felt my daughter move as I pushed my hands to my stomach. And then, before Dad became ill, did you know Chase was employed at Carlton Industries? This takeover had been planned for months. She advised you to take a step back because of this. Leave it to Jenna and the attorneys. Pay attention to my granddaughter. We both jumped when there was a knock on the door. Chase was suitably alarmed as he stood there, still wearing his business attire. The ideal, anxious spouse. He stepped forward and said, Thank God. Get out when the hospital called. I could have frozen hell with my mother's voice. I'm entitled to be here, that's my kid. You were prepared to exploit the youngster as a distraction in order to steal her inheritance. My mother was 5 feet 4 inches tall and enraged. The same kid whose stress levels are putting her life in jeopardy due to your plots? Chase's facade gave way a little. Please, Willa, whatever you believe I did. Quietly, I said, I located the offshore accounts. In the antiseptic room, the words fell like stones. Before he passed away, Dad had a hunch something wasn't right. He employed detectives. That resonated with me. When Chase was really shaken, his expression became blank. You're playing a bluff. I took out my phone and opened the email that Dad's attorney had sent me earlier that day. Do you want to view the transfers? The meetings with the CEO of Carlton? Did you honestly believe that Dad wouldn't defend his business? I did everything for us, Chase added. However, his gaze strayed to the door. For the future. Harper, Mrs. Wheelchair-wielding nurse, came in. We're prepared to let you go. With a look that could tear paint off Chase's face, my mother responded, I'll get the car. After she was gone, Chase stepped forward and spoke quietly. Consider what you are doing. I can ensure that you never see a dime of your inheritance with only one phone call. I gave him a serious look and questioned how I could have ever taken his self-assurance for strength. The SEC will have those offshore accounts with just one phone call from me. Do you want to see which call causes more harm? Patiently, the nurse pretended not to hear. Another clue. Chase adjusted his tie. It's not over yet. I answered, You're right, and allowed the nurse to assist me in getting into the wheelchair. It's only the beginning. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenna as I was being wheeled out. Discovered a significant item in the merger documents. The mastermind isn't Chase. The strings have been pulled by someone else. Suddenly tired, I closed my eyes. Battle by battle. I had to defend my daughter first. After that, I could concentrate on figuring out who had actually planned the demise of my father's business. Are you prepared to return home? When we arrived at my mother's car, she asked. No, I answered, recalling the lavish furnishings and hollow promises of the mansion I had lived with Chase. But I'm prepared to take up arms. I had been at my mother's place for 3 days when Leonard Bennett unexpectedly arrived. With the suitcase in hand and the same pricey smile that had persuaded my father to hire Chase 5 years prior, I watched from the upstairs window as he charmed his way past the housekeeper. From behind me, my mother murmured, You don't have to see him. I do, in fact. I tucked my shirt over my expanding tummy, but not by themselves. After 10 minutes, Jenna was at my side. Leonard was sitting across from me in my mother's study, and my mother was standing guard by the fireplace. Things have gotten out of control. Leonard opened his briefcase and, without hesitation, began speaking. I have a suggestion that might be advantageous to all of us. His words hung in the air, but my mind immediately went to one thing. Was this his plan to secretly sell my father's business? I spoke steadily, recalling Jenna's earlier advice on staying calm in the face of deceit. Is this about the plan to secretly sell my father's business? I asked, my voice unwavering. Leonard didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled out a sheet of paper and laid it on the table. This offer comes from Carlton Industries, he explained. They want to retain the current management group. You can pay off your gambling debts, Chase will receive his fee, and your father's legacy would be preserved. His words struck with a strange weight, but I wasn't about to let him pull the wool over my eyes. Leonard's brief smile seemed to hold a layer of smugness I didn't trust. Did you honestly think that none of this would be uncovered by Dad's investigators? I asked, eyeing him sharply. Because I'm pretty sure you're mistaken. Leonard's expression faltered for a fraction of a second before he began to stand, likely ready to respond. But before he could speak, the sharp sound of my mother's voice interrupted the tension in the room. Leonard, sit down, she said coolly. You're no longer dealing with an unsophisticated socialite. Her words, calm but heavy, shifted the entire atmosphere. What game was Leonard playing? And more importantly, what was my mother's role in all of this? To uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe to SoraBook. More twists, turns, and revelations are coming your way in our next video.